Welcome to San Diego People. I'm Ross Becker. Now, one of the hottest issues facing San Diego for the past couple of years, of course, is the issue of the San Diego Chargers and a new stadium. Are they staying or leaving? And if they're staying, will there be a stadium? And where will it be? It's been quite a ride for Charger fans, but now there's a plan, albeit controversial, and you might get to vote on it. The plan unveiled by the Chargers supports the idea of building a stadium downtown and has a structure to finance that deal. The team is launching a major and expensive campaign to convince 2/3 of San Diego City voters to approve the initiative in November. And that's what this program is all about. We'll be talking about that initiative. We're going to try to answer all of your questions. But we have a missing piece today. Chargers CEO and President Dean Spanos committed to be here with us. And then at the last moment, he had to cancel. It's his name, of course, his reputation, that will eventually mean success or failure for this critical question. And many Charger fans would love to hear that directly from the man in charge. Hopefully we can do that very soon. But we do have some special guests with us today who can help us understand what is in the initiative and how it would work. Joining us, Fred Maas, Charger Stadium Plan Point Man, and Jeffrey Pollack of Manica Architecture, a special advisor working with the San Diego Chargers. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. People are walking up to supermarkets all over the San Diego area, and there's a table and there's a sign, and they're being asked to sign a petition to get an initiative on a ballot. One of the questions that, after everything that has happened with the stadium, they have to ask themselves is, do the Chargers really want to stay in San Diego? And Fred, I know you've been asked this question many times because you're in the middle of it right now. Do they want to stay here?
Well, there's no question about that, Ross, and people have asked us that. One of the things I want to make sure people understand is if they think they've signed a petition in the past, they haven't. In earnest, our petition drive just started Saturday, and so there's been a lot of confusion out in the marketplace. But, you know, I try to explain to people, don't really take us for our words, look at our actions. And we've taken an incredibly serious approach to what we want to do over the next several months as we go into the fall and the campaign and then ultimately build a stadium. The work that Jeffrey's done, the team he's assembled on the design of the stadium, but also the amount of work and effort that's gone into fashioning our own initiative that would provide a vehicle to build both the convention center expansion as well as the stadium with Goldman Sachs and others and work out in the community. So again, it's really a testament and a tribute to Dean Spanos and the family of how sincere and serious they are about keeping the team here.
But let me ask you this direct question, and someone asked me this the other day when I was standing at one of those tables. If the NFL had not said no to Dean Spanos and the Chargers and the Carson deal, where the Chargers have already spent millions of dollars to try to get a stadium in Carson, if the NFL had not said no, the moving vans would already be loaded, and they would be on their way to Carson because that's where Dean Spanos wanted to go when he spent those millions of dollars.
Well, and thank you for raising that because there's a lot of misconception about that as well. The NFL didn't say no. The NFL said yes.
Said no to Carson. They said yes to Inglewood.
They said yes to Inglewood, but it's, you know, LA is LA.
Okay.
And so it's a misnomer to suggest that somehow there isn't a real solution and opportunity in LA because, frankly, it'll be very hard, if not impossible, ever to compete with the economics, even being a second team in the Los Angeles market. So it was very much a yes. It just wasn't the same yes that perhaps the team at the time expected. But again, given those economic circumstances and financial terms, again, it's a testament to the Spanos family, to the team, that they really wanted to be here, even in light of the fact that this market will never compete or compare with Los Angeles specifically, that this is where their home is, this is where they want their fans to enjoy the experience, their sponsors and others. So again, it was very much a yes, not a no.
So when they came back after they were told you couldn't have Carson, but you could have Inglewood. You could go to L.A. under these circumstances. They came back to San Diego, and then Mission Valley came up, and the mayor put a proposal on the table and said, "How about Mission Valley? We've got a stadium there. Here's a picture of it and everything." We got all excited, and then now that has gone away, right?
Well, that's half the story.
Okay.
You know, there was a second part of that story, which was we spent a lot of time looking at Mission Valley as well, and we have, you know, enormous respect for the mayor. The effort that he went through over the past year, the proposal that he put forward, the design. But, you know, we had suggested something a little different in Mission Valley. And it was Dean and the team's view that he didn't just want to build another Qualcomm 2.0. If he was going to do something, it'd have to be special. And while we accepted virtually 80 or 90% of what the mayor and his team wanted to do, we couldn't get to the end zone. And there were things we wanted to do different. There was some financing issues, some development issues that warranted us taking a second look. And when we compared both the Riss downtown and the risks at Mission Valley, it became clear in our mind and Dean's mind that downtown presented a much better opportunity long-term for the legacy of the team, the fans, the community, and to expand the convention center, which was, as you know, very much in doubt.
So we sit here right now. We have basically 3 ideas on the table. We can build a stadium downtown. We can, the team can go to Inglewood, or the team can go somewhere else that hasn't even been discussed yet, because in this I have left the door open to just about everything. Everything changes at the last minute. But what happens if the voters say no? What happens if they say no, we're not going to put it on the ballot? What happens if the voters say no, because you've got to get 2/3 vote, which is a big speed bump to get over in the fall in terms of this initiative? Does that mean that the team goes to Inglewood if the voters say no?
Well, you know, it's sort of like saying, what happens if we don't win the Super Bowl next year? What does that mean? We understand.
A man like Dean Spanos has a plan.
There's a lot of open questions.
Sure.
His plan is to be in San Diego.
I understand
and
that.
give 100% of the effort. So
but if they
that's
say
where we
no,
start. Let me finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let me finish. Look, you know, there were 2 options on the table. There's really the San Diego and Los Angeles, and we're pursuing with all of our heart, soul, and effort into being here and remaining here. It is speculative, I think, to say today what will happen if the voters turn us down, or what happens if we don't secure the signatures. We believe we will do that.
Of course.
And I just don't know. I can tell you this. We've been overwhelmed by the outpouring of support and the willingness of our fans and sponsors and others to let bygones be bygones, understand how difficult a year it was last year, but to embrace the team and embrace the family in staying here. So, you know, that's a really important, I think, undercurrent of support that we don't want to lose. And so, you know, if we were to win an election or lose an election by a couple of points is different than an election in which there was some overwhelming turn down. So I think we should enjoy the times we have and be positive about it, because that's ultimately what's going to keep the team here.
Well, that's why I was asking the questions, because voters have to decide when they walk up to that table. When I started this segment, they have to make a decision. Am I going to put my name on a petition to get this initiative on the ballot? Can I trust that this time I'm hearing the story, that they really do want to be here? And if the initiative fails, might you go back to Mission Valley? Might that still be on the table? That still is in the mayor's mind. You know that.
Well, again, you're asking me to.
I know.
You're asking me to speculate and predict what happens in the future. We are 100% committed to downtown. No questions, no ambiguities.
Okay.
And to those people that have doubts about the sincerity of moving to LA, I say, don't take me for my word, or frankly, take anyone else from the team for their word. It really is about how much time and effort and seriousness we've put into these proposals to go forward. And I think people should let that stand for itself, because not just in terms of the detailed design and thoughtfulness that went into the financing plan, but the expenditure of dollars that you wouldn't just wantonly do unless you were serious about it.
And now we need to talk about that initiative. We're going to take a break, and we're going to get you involved, Jeffrey. We're going to talk about the nuts and bolts of this initiative so that people can make that decision about whether or not they want to say yes or no to this initiative. It's critical for the Chargers. It's critical for all those passionate Charger fans that you talk about. All right, gentlemen, we're going to come back here on San Diego People, and as I mentioned, we're going to take an in-depth look at this plan and the supporters behind it. KUSI reporter Steve Bosh is going to be joining us. He's been covering this for years. We're going to find out what's in this initiative and tell you whether or not you can decide whether to sign that initiative when you see it. We'll be right back here on San Diego People.
I know that there's a lot of work to be done, and there's so many people doing so much work, and there's so much yet to go, and maybe I look at it a little simpler, but I mean, it just makes sense, right? So let's get it done.
Over 55 years, guys, you have seen some great players, and what I'm telling you is, let's build a stadium for the next 55 years where there can be more great players in this community. You deserve it. San Diego, you deserve it. Please, don't let the Chargers leave here. Let's get those votes.
Welcome back to San Diego, people. As you can see, there is a lot of excitement around this Charger Stadium plan, but there are also a lot of questions and controversy as well. KUSI's Steve Bosh is joining us now. He's been covering this issue for the past 14 years. And also, of course, we are still joined by our stadium point man for the Chargers, Fred Maas, and Jeffrey Pollack of Manica Architecture, a special advisor working with the San Diego Chargers. So this segment, we've blocked out a little extra time, Steve, because we want to go into this initiative to let people understand it enough so they can sign to get it on the ballot and maybe in the fall to actually pass it. Let's see how this would work.
All right, I guess, Fred, this will be directed to you because it's that type of a question, not design. Have you responded to the mayor's letter, his list of concerns in that letter to Dean Spanos? For example, does general fund protection extend only to the bonds and lease or to all costs which the city may incur directly or indirectly?
The answer to the first part of your question is yes. We've not responded yet. We're in the process of formulating a response. We had a conference call the day before yesterday. I have a second draft before me today that we're all looking at, the entire Charger team. And it's our hope and expectation that we'll have a response before the end of the day tomorrow.
And this,
so
of
we
course,
are working on that.
This, of course, relates to voters in the city of San Diego and whether or not we're on the hook for money. Right? And those are some of the mayor's concerns.
And those are legitimate questions. You know, we've spent a lot of time working with the mayor and some of his folks through this process. We were very careful in the crafting of this measure to explain and to demonstrate that no general funds would be used in the construction of this process.
Now or ever?
Ever, now or ever, and it is very clear. The financing plan was very intelligently done, looking at a number of financial circumstances that might arise over the life of these bonds and creating enough of a cushion, both in the construction, the operation, and otherwise, to deal with these issues. And this will be explained in great detail in our letter to the mayor when we submit it, hopefully tomorrow.
So in that same vein, what happens if we have another recession or in the out years and the TOT goes down? How is that backfilled?
Well, there are several protective measures that are included in the initiative as it is. Number one, when the tax itself was based on a model that assumed a replication of the Great Recession that we had previously.
We're talking about the hotel tax.
We're talking specifically about a hotel tax. So it's important for people to understand. If you are a resident of the city of San Diego and a voter of the city of San Diego, first and foremost, you won't pay a dime for the construction of this facility.
Ever.
Ever. Secondarily, we've tried to be very conservative in our formulation of the financial plan that was included to put in protections for those very circumstances. Now, I don't want to say that there couldn't be some financial Armageddon that may cause some financial ruin that would be devastating, not just to this, but to all of San Diego if that ever were to happen.
Like an earthquake or something.
Well, like the Great Depression, I mean, something that was worse, significantly worse than the Great Depression. But we assumed several things in our financial modeling, and we're going through this with the financial folks at the city, that included, as I say, very conservative estimates as to growth in TOT. For example, we did not assume any additional hotels in our modeling. So to the extent 1,000 or 1,800 rooms are approved on the Ballpark Village site, assuming the Ritz-Carlton happens downtown, assuming the Montage happens downtown, a number of those hotels, they were not included.
That would raise the equation.
That would raise the equation, which would mean not only more money would be raised for the general fund, but also dollars would be provided that was not included in our model. Also, just one more thing, we did not assume tax-exempt bond rates. So we assumed a taxable interest rate of 6%. Right now, we believe it's somewhere around 425 that would provide additional protections built into the measure.
In this same line, you have said for those who believe this is not Petco Park, they are just wrong. We know Petco sparked a building boom. What's the comparison here?
Well, I think there are several comparisons, and witness the fact that nothing's really happened on these blocks since Petco was done. It's an enormous undertaking to replace the MTS site that's there and find an alternative location, to replace the parking on Tailgate Park. But what Jeffrey and his team and the Manic architects that work for him have done so brilliantly is to create a vibrant community experience that is more than just a football stadium, that provides robust convention space to allow the facility to augment the existing convention center space. It provides a roof to potentially attract Final Fours and a number of other sports and entertainment venues to this facility. We have energized the rim of the stadium itself to include retail shops and others for 365 days a year. And I think what you'll see is the renovation and rehabilitation of all those blocks north of the stadium all the way up to City College. It is not just Petco. There have been other experiences, but I think it is ripe for exactly this to happen, because if you are a property owner and you're adjacent to the MTS site where there's 400 or 500, 600 buses a day, you don't want to spend the money to build a project there and have that be your neighbor.
Let's talk about the politics for a second. The hoteliers, other segments of the and other segments of the hospitality industry are obviously opposing the annex. How do you overcome that?
Well, I guess I'm always the eternal optimist.
They want a contiguous building on the convention center as opposed to a separate building.
Yes,
right?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
And I was served on the mayor's convention center task force expansion. I'm a big believer that we should be expanding the convention center. But I don't think it should be to the exclusion of what we should be doing as a big city. There are enormous problems. It was one of the arguments that we struggled with internally, that we came to the conclusion that the likelihood of the convention center expansion was not imminent, and that we were going to provide an imminent solution, and that ultimately, as time passes, there may be vehicles to get them both done.
The Citizens Plan will likely make the ballot. They turned in their signatures yesterday. You're concerned about having that competition, not only directly, but from other groups like the Village People who are coming up with a different plan.
Yes. I mean, we could talk about the Village People's plan. I'm not going to sing it, but we can talk about it.
They're all entitled to their plan, right?
We can certainly talk about that. There are a number of things to the Briggs Initiative we think are very powerful, not just as it relates to us, but for the long-term future of the city. And again, it was one of the really exciting things about this proposal. It opens up Mission Valley for a robust dialogue about what could happen there, whether it's parkland, whether it's a river park, whether it's open space, whether it's university uses or any other economic uses. I think we take this incredible asset that right now is burdened with a 10-day-a-year facility and opens it up for real city dialogue. So,
Jeffrey, let me bring you into this at this particular point, because this is one of the things that people are going to have to decide, and that is, do we want another stadium downtown? We already have Petco Park. Maybe we need something else. You've heard all these discussions. Describe to me the vision of the architecture of this stadium and how you think it would fit in terms of a footprint downtown.
Well, first, to clarify on your introduction, I'm not a Manica employee.
Oh, you're not?
I'm a Charger employee and very proud of it.
Very good.
Okay.
Very good.
But I do supervise the work of David Manica, who is a brilliant architect. And just a word about his background, he's really perfectly suited for this project. For more than 20 years, he's built just stadiums, arenas, and convention centers. So to answer your question, this is much more than a stadium, as Fred said. This really is a truly integrated mixed-use facility that will help continue to revitalize downtown. So the vision is that this building serves both the stadium needs, the convention center needs, but taking advantage of every possible opportunity for integration and making sure that what is really a very tight and somewhat constrained site is used as efficiently as possible, but also making sure there's a real eye on scale. So this, for instance, will not be the tallest building in this area, The clock tower nearby is about 204 feet. The library is about 240. I believe the residential apartment building that's going up nearby is 500 feet.
Low profile.
We'll be somewhere between 2 and 210 at this point. Now again, all the designs that we've released thus far, it's conceptual in nature. It's subject to change. We're encouraging community feedback, but where we are right now, the scale here is going to be very tight and I think very reasonable for the community. The other point to make is that in terms of the traditional height for a football stadium with a retractable roof, we're about 5 or 6 stories lower than the others.
And just quickly, where are you on parking?
There will be less parking than you would see at Qualcomm, just given the nature of the site. We're still finalizing the initial design for that, but we're focused very much on encouraging alternative forms of transportation and again, encouraging people to get to the stadium in new ways.
All right, we still have more to talk about here. We need to take a break. Still ahead on San Diego People, could San Diego become a Super Bowl destination? What the head of the NFL is saying about San Diego, plus what it will take to make the Chargers stadium plan work. We're going to keep talking about all of this when we come back here on San Diego People.
The Chargers do belong here in San Diego. You're right. Let's do it. But we got a little job to do, and we got to start by getting our signatures. Then we got to get a vote in November, and then we got to build this stadium right here, and then we'll have a new home for the Chargers, and a perfect place for the Super Bowl.
Now, there's a vision for you. You're watching San Diego People. The NFL commissioner recently talking about the Charger Stadium plan could help the city become the next big Super Bowl destination. But what will that take? Again, joining me, Steve Bosh, Jeffrey Pollack, a special advisor working with the San Diego Chargers, and Fred Maas as well. Jeffrey, let me ask you, that vision of a Super Bowl, I mean, that certainly would be wonderful for downtown San Diego, for the entire region. The vision of the actual physical footprint of the stadium, can it take care of a Super Bowl?
Absolutely. The commissioner had it right. It will make a great place for a Super Bowl. We have designed the stadium with that in mind. And we think that part of what will make this stadium so unique is that it will be truly unique to San Diego. The design takes advantage of the incredible weather that we have here. It draws its inspiration from the water, the nautical history, the rugged coastline, and you'll see in the design a number of elements that blend really indoor and outdoor living. For instance, we have a 100,000 square foot, what we're calling Sky Garden, that will create an entirely new type of space for exhibitions and conventions. It will even have what we're calling cabana meeting rooms to serve the convention center needs. But on game day, you'll see that Sky Garden activated to create an entirely new amenity for football fans. So everything that we're doing is about making sure that it not only fits in the neighborhood, but is completely unique and authentic to San Diego.
I can taste the pina coladas already.
So given all the outstanding issues related to cost and design, when will the voters know what they're going to be voting on?
Mm-hmm. Well, the voters aren't voting on the design. The voters are voting on what's in the initiative. The design that we have right now is a concept. It's one vision for what this can be.
We have about a minute and a half left in this program, and there is a lot more to talk about in this initiative, and hopefully we've whet people's interest to look specifically what's in it. But one of the things that I think a lot of people are wondering about when they decide whether to sign this petition is just what's gone on in the past. And we talked about this in our first segment, about whether or not city leaders have been honest with us all along, whether the Chargers have been honest with us all along. This has been going on for years in San Diego. People are tired of it, frankly, but they're also excited about it. They're excited maybe now that maybe this is the path toward a stadium. Do you think city leaders in this city, Fred, have been honest with the Charger fans? And do you think the Chargers have been honest with the Charger fans over the years?
Yeah, I don't think it's a question of honesty. I mean, I think it's a question of folks who may not agree with someone else's position. I think the politicians have been honest. I think the Chargers have been honest. I mean, there was no dark of the night trying to get to Carson. I think it was a full and fair discourse. I mean, one of the problems in confronting the public in these things is much of the public believes that a football team is held in the public trust.
Yes.
That they effectively, that it is their team, it is the community's team. They take ownership in it. And when you have that relationship, that personal relationship to the football experience, it creates the kind of emotions that you get as a member of your family. But at the end of the day, it's a business. And sometimes the clash between those emotions and business create folks who think you haven't necessarily been honest. But I think it's more just a sear clash between those two concepts of a team that's a business to the Chargers, but is a community asset to the fans.
Right now, you're going to need that emotion to get 2/3 vote, though, in November.
Yeah,
right?
and before we end this, how about a little bit about the campaign that you're going to mount? What's that going to be like?
Well, I want to make sure we correct something. Because as of right now, it's not a 2/3 vote. It's a 50+1 vote. Obviously, we're watching that very carefully. We're planning internally that it be a 2/3 vote, but right now, the city attorney, who I have enormous respect for, has opined that it's a 50+1 vote until the Supreme Court says otherwise. So that's the way we're operating. But I think you're going to see a campaign consistent with the sincerity of the team to keep the Chargers here and to build this incredible new facility. Remember, it is more than just a football stadium. It is way more. It's a dome stadium that will have convention center expansion space and provide a vehicle for not just Super Bowls, but a number of other opportunities here. So I think you'll see an effort commensurate with the effort we've put in, and we've spent probably north of $5 million already just qualifying this.
Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And now it is up to the people of San Diego. And you need to decide whether or not, when you go to the supermarket and you see that table, whether to sign that initiative, get it on the ballot, and then in the fall, if it's there, decide what to do about a new stadium here in San Diego. That's it for San Diego people. Thank you for joining us.